is titled The MAGA Russian Plan to Track and Control Your Life. And I call it that because basically what it appears to me is that the MAGA Republicans, the Trump Republicans, are absolutely imitating Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban. And they're quite aggressive about it and quite enthusiastic about it and quite proud of it. Marjorie Taylor Greene just a few weeks ago tweeted out, "Today I filed 6 amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act to prohibit sending any additional funding, weapons, ammunition, or other resources to Ukraine." Yes, we love Russia, right? Says Marjorie Taylor Greene. Donald Trump lavished praise on Putin over and over and over again. A conservative podcaster said, "I stand on the side of Russia right now." And then when the Times reached out to him and said, "We're going to publish this. Do you have anything to say?" He said, "People support Russia because you did not do the right thing when it came to the fraud and corruption of Biden." Right. He says, "I pray for the people in Ukraine, but equally pray the people who facilitated the evil communist agenda in the U.S. are held accountable." Right. The evil communist agenda in the U.S. When the NRA was busted by the staff of the Senate Finance Committee for laundering Russian money into the 2016 Trump campaign and facilitating the efforts of Russian spy Maria Butina, the Republican Party officially replied that this report from the Senate staff was, quote, overblown. No droids in this car, right? It's really hard to find MAGA Republicans who will criticize Putin and the way he's running Russia. I mean, it really is. So that, I think, should cause us to consider what might America be like if a MAGA Republican becomes president, and if MAGA Republicans, and I'm saying MAGA Republicans because I think it's important generally. I think it's important for you and me, and I think it's also important to distinguish between MAGA Republicans and, let's say, Mitch McConnell Republicans or Mitt Romney Republicans, who I disagree with on just about every issue on earth, but who at least have some loyalty to democracy. I say some because they're still enthusiastic about voter suppression and packing courts. And I mean, they're not all in on democracy, but at least they're not all in on fascism. So, what do we have? Well, a couple of months ago, the Associated Press did a story about the life of a young woman, a Russian journalist who's been arrested twice for showing up at demonstrations as a reporter. And now every time she gets on the Russian subway, she gets stopped by the police and detained for hours because she is now in the facial recognition database for Russia. Like America, Russia has doorbell cameras, they have security cameras, they have traffic cameras pretty much everywhere. And like America, most of those cameras are on the internet. The difference is that in Russia, they all funnel into the Russian government, whereas in America, they funnel into private corporations who can sell our information to the government, but so far the government has not used it in a nefarious fashion, but the capability is there. And I think that's an important thing to note, is that capability is there. And, if we get a MAGA Republican, I mean, again, in Russia, in just the last year, over 600,000 websites were taken down on the Russian, in Russia, blocked nationwide. And nearly 800 people face criminal prosecutions for things they said or liked online or on social media. Earlier this year, the Kremlin and its media regulator rolled out an AI system to run facial recognition at blinding speed and simultaneously looking for forbidden words or phrases on social media, on websites, in publications, in email. Cell phone providers in Russia are required to actually record conversations and store those recordings in case the government wants to access them. This year, Russia announced that they're going to follow China, Saudi Arabia, and other dictatorial regimes in basically closing the internet, having what Putin refers to as a sovereign internet. And meanwhile, the culture wars are rolling along at full speed in Russia. In 2021, Putin announced a program to cut the number of abortions in half. Criminalization of abortion is moving through the Duma. Moscow, most recently, made spreading LGBT propaganda a crime, be it online or even in a discussion at the local bar. DeSantis' Don't Say Gay law is where Putin started about a decade ago, taking any information about gay people out of sex education and out of classrooms And now it's a full-scale, now it's an imprisonable crime, in fact, to speak well of queer people in Russia in any way. This is like, and Putin has now started building a network of informers, of citizen informers, which brings us to the question, what would a MAGA version of Russia look like here? And I think we've got a big clue out of Idaho. The Idaho Republicans criminalized taking minors, people under 18, across state lines for an abortion, as Kaiser Family Foundation Health News reporter Sarah Varney told NPR. She said, "I'm here at the Idaho-Washington state line, and under the new law here in Idaho, any adult who helps a teenager leave Idaho to terminate a pregnancy will face 2 to 5 years in prison. That includes an aunt, a sister, a brother, a grandmother, or even in cases where the teenage girl has been sexually assaulted. In addition, the man who impregnated that girl can sue and get up to $20,000 from her or her family for having had an abortion," which is an echo of the, bounties on women's heads law in Texas that was passed by MAGA Republicans in Texas and approved by 6 MAGA Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court. But how would Idaho police actually enforce that law? How would they know that a teenager from Idaho showed up in Seattle or in Portland to get an abortion? Well, sure enough, the Sacramento Bee revealed last week, we talked about it on this program, that the automated license plate reader data in that city, in that county, Sacramento County, had been being shared with states that had criminalized abortion. And, they say that they're going to fix this now, but now Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Texas legislatures have passed laws giving the state attorneys general the ability to overrule local prosecutors in blue cities who don't want to prosecute women or families or doctors around abortion issues. And this is not a small matter. 80 district attorneys operating in 29 states have signed pledges to refrain from using criminal legal system resources to criminalize personal medical decisions. But abortion isn't, they're not just going to stop at abortion. I mean, Florida and Texas have already pioneered arresting black men and women for voting. And it worked. I mean, comparing midterm election to midterm election, in 2018, there was a 63% voter turnout in the 2018 midterm election in Florida. It dropped to 54% in 2022, which is why Ron DeSantis was reelected. And it looks like a large chunk of that drop was a drop in black voters. Why? Because, they saw black voters being paraded in shackles on television. And, a lot of people are very concerned. They don't want to go to jail. And they know that DeSantis has put a target on the backs of black people, specifically black voters. Same thing with, don't even think about being out and queer in MAGA America. Should the MAGA Republicans take national power? I mean, we've seen what DeSantis did to the universities in Florida. There's now even every 5 years you have to fill out a form as a teacher or as a student talking about your politics. And if your politics aren't acceptable, you're out. Plus, the new college, he replaced the whole leadership of it. He's putting basically loyalty tests, political purity tests. This is what Viktor Orban did in Hungary. This is what Putin did in Russia 15 years ago. I mean, this is bad stuff. And then, of course, we've got the same oligarchy problem here in the United States that Russia and Hungary have, countries where the oligarchs have taken over the political system because our Supreme Court decriminalized billionaires buying politicians, decriminalized political bribery. So, oligarchies don't tend to work out well. They tend to turn into dictatorships and single-party rule. And that may well be where we end up if we don't do something about this. So, we all need, Democrats, independents, and Republicans need to be repudiating these MAGA Republicans in every corner of this land before they can seize any more political power. And before we reach the point, if they seize police power, where we can't turn back.